All right, everybody, what's happening? Thank you for tuning in to We'll Fix It Team. All right, so where we're at right now is we've been really busy at the shop, so it's been hard to shoot videos to work all angles of the tubes, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so I want to show you what's going on real quick. Let me flip the camera around. What we've got is a transmission out of a Ford Taurus, and I'm doing a transmission swap pretty much. This one here had a failure between, I think, the second, third clutch pack, probably a seal, because wasn't much material in the pan. It just seemed like it was just once it went in the second, out of second into third gear, just was no clutches there, barely hold. And typically that's a seal that's gone bad because it's not keeping pressure in the clutch pack, and the guy didn't drive it till it smoked the transmission. So we just got that. Well, here's a good used model that's going to go back in it. Came from a reputable salvage yard with 79,000 miles on it, and I'll be replacing the front seals and the where the torque converter seal is, and we'll service it as well before we put it in. But for right now, I've got to do a swap on a few things. I want to I got to put this onto that over there. I've got to take that off here, that mount off the back of the transmission. I'm going to swap the dipsticks because I think this one's been bent just a little bit, probably during the move from where it was brought to, because you can see that the grommet is a little bit tweaked, and so it's possibly been pushed down a little bit. I don't want to leak, so I'm going to change that dipstick tube and reseal that little plug, or grommet, I'm sorry. And here's a little bit involved. Is to get these things out, you have to take the whole lower subframe section out from underneath it, because you will not get it out, and that's why you'll see this thing suspending the engine up under the hood. I've got that kind of draped across there, and that's keeping everything up and up. And so we'll get all that in. We'll get this one back up in there, and then we'll start hooking everything up. I guess it's a little late in the game, but this gives you an idea of what it's involved in swapping a transmission in most of these well, all of them, even the older ones, the big ugly ones from like RoboCop. Okay, stay tuned. Here we go. All right. Something that I like to do to be sure. I mean, most of the time they'll get you the right stuff, but see, don't get misled. I always take the seal and, put again. I'm draining the old torque converter down. I'm just going to use a little bit of the fluid that came out of it, because it's not bad. I don't even see any material in the pan. Just slip it to the clutch on the old transmission. My hair's sort of sticking out the back. But check this out. Okay, so you'll see I've got the seal here. I just want to be sure that it slides over the lip of the torque converter and looks kind of like it's, sealing up. Because if you got the wrong seal, it would be a bad time to find out after you've already put the transmission all in. So now we're going to use a couple of tools, and we'll remove the old front seal, and I'll show you some of the things that I made to put the new seal in. All right, here we go. the new seal. Okay, so like, check this out. I made this out of an old throwout bearing, and I lengthened it so it would go over the input shaft, so I can get a nice straight hit on it. I'm in an awkward position because I'm trying to film this, but this should go pretty good. Yeah. All right, we got that in. Now, I'll go around with my flat punch and I'll just knock around the edges real good after that, just to ensure that it's properly seated. And then I will put a little bit of lube on the torque converter and a little bit in the torque converter, once I drain the old out. Some new Mercuron 5 fluid from a trans, and that'll be that's the pump shaft, by the way. This little bitty shaft in the middle right here, just to let you know, this is the shaft that actually runs the fluid pump at the very back of the transmission. If you were to take this cover off, back here on the back, you would access the valve body, and then once you remove the valve body, you actually see a vane pump in there. I've had to change these shafts where they've stripped out. Torque converters usually will strip before the shaft will, but I have seen the shaft strip, and so I've had to change those. But anyhow, so we'll continue on. Okay, so what we've got now is ready to install the torque converter. Now, this is a procedure that needs to be done just carefully. Carefully is the name of the game. This has been a downfall of some of the shade treers, but not getting the torque converter in all the way and causing damage to the front pump, because it needs to spline up several times. Oh God, let's see if I can get in there. Let me flip this telephone. So, looking down inside the torque converter, you're going to see several sets of splines there. And you see the bigger set. Then you see another set that's medium size, and at the very inside there you see a little teeny weeny little way down in there. That's another set of splines that actually is stationary, because that is what turns the front pump. That's the pump shaft splines. Then you've got a set of splines that turn the insides of the torque converter, and then you got the outside splines, which is the stator, which drives the other sides of the fins. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of these transmissions require a Mercuron 5. And so I will do that real quick, and then we'll go for the install. Okay. We don't need to put a whole lot in there. I drained most of it out. What's in there is probably be fine, but it'll take. I'll put maybe half a quart or so in this thing. You can get more than that in there, but it'll take all day, and it really won't make any difference as long as there's something in there to kind of make things a little bit slickerier. Okay. Okay, so behind the camera right now, let me get in front of it. So I put a little bit of lubrication on the surface that's going to be riding on the seal, and also the little bushing on the inside. And we want this thing to go all the way back, so it should go in there like 3 times, I think. Once you let's do this real quick. I'm gonna try my best not to. This is awkward. Usually facing the other way. But not quite. I don't think it did. It go all the way in that easily? If it did, kudos. I don't think it did. That little bit of fluid leaking out is normal. That's where I filled the torque converter up. I think it'll go back a little bit more. I'll be sure. If it's in, it's in, but you really want to make sure it's all the way back. And I want to show you when I go, there'll be a full-length video of this, and you'll actually see one of the things I do to be sure I'm not jammed up. But I could be all the way in. Yeah, maybe feels like it. You can reach behind it, and if there's not much room, you can't get your fingers in behind it, you're pretty good. So, well, I think I actually it just dropped right in that easily, but you got to be sure. Let me flip the. Like I say, that little bit of fluid there is just where I actually ended up putting the whole cord in that thing. It took it a lot faster. So a little bit dumped out when I tipped the torque converter up. Let me flip the not phone around. So, in case you don't watch the whole full-length video that I'll put together and put up later, when you install the transmission, and you get the little fin or the studs lined up with the flywheel flex plate, you'll you want to grab the stud. I know, lefties, don't get too excited, but even in the hole of the flex plate, there's a little bit of room to give. So you should be able to take and grab the stud with no nuts on it, and go ding 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 ding. That's after you've got the transmission installed, and you carefully tighten the bolts down to make sure it's seated up properly. As you're doing that, make sure nothing jams up right here just by grabbing the stud and just kind of turn. You can grab it here too. Like, ding ding. You should be. If it won't move, then there's a good chance you may have something jammed up. But a rule of thumb is to, maybe if you see rust on this, clean that with some emery cloth. And the same thing for the back of the crankshaft where that lines up in the back, because you want that to be free. You want it to slide in, but you don't want it to be locked on your rust and giving you a false sense of, oh crap, something's wrong. So you want that to go in there easily. So, but yeah, as long as once you get this thing in to the flywheel properly, flex plate, and you can grab this and you can go ding 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 ding, and it sounds, you'll hear it. You'll know what I'm talking about. If it won't move, if you can't move this thing, recheck what you've done. But that's kind of like what you want to do when you're installing these transmissions. That is probably the most important aspect of what you're doing here, aside from blowing out the transmission oil cooler lines, making sure that I need to breeze out of there. So that's a quickie. All right, thank you for tuning in. We'll fix it, team. We'll cut this whole video up and make it a whole thing longer. You can watch me put it in, whatnot. Okay, peace out. Okay, so what we've got now is ready to install the torque converter. Now, this is a procedure that needs to be done just carefully. Carefully is the name of the game. This has been a downfall of some of the shade treers, but not getting the torque converter in all the way and causing damage to the front pump, because it needs to spline up several times. Oh God, let's see if I can get in there. Let me flip this telephone. So, looking down inside the torque converter, you're going to see several sets of splines there. And you see the bigger set. Then you see another set that's medium size, and at the very inside there, you see a little teeny weeny little way down in there. That's another set of splines that actually is stationary, because that is what turns the front pump. That's the pump shaft splines. Then you've got a set of splines that turn the insides of the torque converter, and then you got the outside splines, which is the stator, which drives the other sides of the fins. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of these transmissions require a Mercuron 5, and so I will do that real quick, and then we'll go for the install. Okay, we don't need to put a whole lot in there. I drained most of it out. What's in there is probably be fine, but it'll take I'll put maybe half a quart or so in this thing. You can get more than that in there, but it'll take all day, and it really won't make any difference, as long as there's something in there to kind of make things a little bit slickerier. Okay, so behind the camera right now, let me get in front of it. So I put a little bit of lubrication on the surface that's going to be riding on the seal, and also the little bushing on the inside. And we want this thing to go all the way back, so it should go in there like 3 times, I think. Once you let's do this real quick. I'm gonna try my best not to. This is awkward, usually facing the other way, but not quite. I don't think it did. It go all the way in that easily? If it did, kudos. I don't think it did. That little bit of fluid leaking out is normal. That's where I filled the torque converter up. I think it'll go back a little bit more. I'll be sure. If it's in, it's in, but you really want to make sure it's all the way back. And I want to show you when I go. There'll be a full-length video of this, and you'll actually see one of the things I do to be sure I'm not jammed up. But I could be all the way in. Yeah, maybe feels like it. You can reach behind it, and if there's not much room, you can't get your fingers in behind it, you're pretty good. So, well, I think I actually just dropped right in that easily, but you got to be sure. Let me flip like I say, that little bit of fluid there is just where I actually ended up putting the whole cord in that thing. It took it a lot faster. So a little bit dumped out when I tipped the torque converter up. Let me flip the not phone around. So, in case you don't watch the whole full-length video, that I'll put together and put up later. When you install the transmission and you get the little fin or the studs lined up with the flywheel flex plate, you'll want to grab the stud. I know, lefties, don't get too excited, but even in the hole of the flex plate, there's a little bit of room to give. So you should be able to take and grab the stud with no nuts on it, and go ding 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 ding. That's after you've got the transmission installed, and you carefully tighten the bolts down to make sure it's seated up properly. As you're doing that, make sure nothing jams up right here just by grabbing the stud and just kind of turn. You can grab it here too, like ding ding. You should be. If it won't move, then there's a good chance you may have something jammed up. But a rule of thumb is to, maybe if you see rust on this, clean that with some emery cloth. And the same thing for the back of the crankshaft, where that lines up in the back, because you want that to be free. You want it to slide in, but you don't want it to be locked on your rust and giving you a false sense of, oh crap, something's wrong. So you want that to go in there easily. So, but yeah, as long as once you get this thing in to the flywheel properly, flex plate, and you can grab this and you can go ding 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 ding, and it sounds, you'll hear it. You'll know what I'm talking about. If it won't move, if you can't move this thing, recheck what you've done. But that's kind of like what you want to do when you're installing these transmissions. That is probably the most important aspect of what you're doing here, aside from blowing out the transmission oil cooler lines, making sure that I don't need to breeze out of there. So that's a quickie. All right, thank you for tuning in. We'll fix it, team. We'll cut this whole video up and make it a whole thing longer. You can watch me put it in, whatnot. Okay, peace out. All right. So we're going to line this thing up in real time. Can I do it? Let's see here. I don't know how well this is going to do a photograph or a... Where am I at? What is going on? Okay. I'm upside down. Let me get it like that. Sorry about the what is that? Narcoleptic seizure, people. Okay. So, front of the vehicle is right here. Back of the vehicle is that way. So, we're going to get this. We've got a couple of things to line up at the same time. The stud and the torque converter. And the hole in the flex plate up here. That's my nose. All right, so we're getting there. I thought maybe I could do this in real time and look like maybe possibly the man. But, you got to remember, this is not for the faint of heart. What I will do is probably let the engine down just a little bit by my little thing up there, because I've reached a point where this mount is kind of cramping my style a little bit. I don't think well, I'll tell you what, there it goes. Yeah. It's got to be, this transmission jack, I'm going to use my little pull bar to just kind of scoot it along. It's a little forgiving instead of like trying to muscle it. I've got a stud a dowel pin that's got to line up here at the top. And I'm sort of checking on the back. Yeah. Get my light. Hanging out with me in real time. You guys are awesome. Yeah, going. I've got to rotate everything just a little bit. So I'm turning my adjustment on the tranny jack right there. There you go, right there, to get it rotated to line up. And in the process, we'll be adjusting the height just a little bit. letting the back of the engine down just a little bit to compensate, because I do have that. There's not a lot of clearance between this fender and the tranny. All right. See how my dowel pin on the other side of looking. Oh yeah, we can crank her right on up now. Spin this around just a little bit. Scoot it on up. Scooting on up to the top. I'm gonna sing really badly while we carefully get stuff. I'm minding these torque converter studs. I'm watching this other dowel pin over here. We're close. Here comes the neighbor's dog. Hey, neighbor dog. Here, we'll see the neighbor's dog. Say, hey, buddy. Hey, girl. Shy. So shy. All right, back to the thingy here. Neighbors' dogs are cool. I like to see them come over here and hang out. They feel safe, and they are. I love animals and have a lot of respect for God's creatures. All right, we're just about there. I got where I can get one bolt in to kind of like keep me in the body of me thing. So we'll just kind of like, I'm not tightening it down. I'm just gonna use it for a helpy. I'm gonna get my 15 ratchet wrench to make life a little easier. What do we got here? I'm just using this to help me out a little bit because we're just about there. We're really, really close. And, you know, lining up a transmission on anything front wheel drive has its own setbacks. We've got our a place where I can reach my torque converter stud and everything. I'm kind of lined up with that hole. And what I've got to do now is just sort of kick the back end around. I'll use my pull bar. Let's see. I think we can. Which way I want to tilt it? Just tilt it a little bit. I need to go the other way. Right. Looking pretty good. Just carefully bringing it together now. And you can see it happening. I'll move my... Let me flip this around. I'll give it a little taparoo back here. I'm just kind of bringing it together slowly. And I'm being mindful of... let's see if you can see in there. Way in that gap, there's a dowel pin, so I'm just making it's hard to see with my camera. I'll keep bringing it together little by little, and I'm checking my we're pretty close. Let's see what we got here. See how I can move that freely like that? So far, what it looks like right now, I'm not jammed up any, so I'm going to get one on the top corner up here. We'll get one. My nose is stopped up. We're going to put one in right up here. We're pretty well lined up, guys, but I'm always really careful about that pump. That is your, or the, you just don't want to damage anything, because if you're out here to try to make a dollar, spinning it to fix your mess ups can be not the way to go. The bad business model. And I'm using this wrench, hand tightening it, because that way I can tell what's going on. Doodly-doo. Okay, and I can see, but you won't be able to. But I can look through the gap up in this little spot here, and I can see that it's seated up against the other at the back side of the engine. We're good. Okay. And I'm just gonna let my tranny jack down slowly. That's not attached. It was just kind of out of the way there for something else. All right. Okay. We're moving along. As I lay here, now we'll get something to eat, because it's lunchtime, and I'll get the rest of the bolts in that hold this stuff together, and we'll do it. We'll kind of, I'll bring it to us little by little. We'll just roll with it. Thanks, guys. We'll fix it, team. So I'm kind of like bolting up some stuff. Yeah. This is what we're doing here. We'll be getting in some torque converter bolts here in just a second. Matter of fact, we could move on to a little bit of that. I'm doing this on my scissor lift. It's not that bad to work like this. So people say, how do you get up and down all the time? Well, it kind of keeps me in shape. Let's see here. And I got a dab of Loctite we're going to be using. Yeah, there it is on my creeper. A little bit of this stuff here goes a long way. And I've already, like I say, we're bolted in on all of our valve housing bolts. And so now we just gotta rock with some of these. Yeah, that'll work right there. Okay, all right. We got our socket to turn a crank with. And I always like to turn the engine in a clockwise direction, just because, I'll be honest with you, and it sounds strange, but if you ever take the front cover off of a 3.9 liter Dodge motor and look at the and see how they've got the tensioner set up for the little timing chain in there, not a 3.7, yeah, 3.7, yeah, it's got a 2 timing chains. You've got a chain that goes to the other. I had to think for a second there. If you roll it backwards and that tensioner's kind of old and brittle, it'll bust that little piece. That little foil with polyurethane coated on it, it folds it too far back, and it's like doink, and it pops it in two. So just out of habit, I always try to rotate the engine in a clockwise manner, or the direction of rotation, so that we're in the right phase of our tensioner for our timing chain, which this one is not overhead cam. But like I say, good habits go a long way when it comes to doing this stuff. And so, socket for the thing here. What do we got here? Was it 15? Something like that. Okay, I have to get the stuff. This is like in real time. I won't do all the torque converter bolts. It's just a fun little scene of me doing this here. So let's see if I can get. Is this supposed to be a 14? I think it's. I can't see. Yeah, so it is 15. Okay. I'll double check. So most of the torque converter bolts are Fords are 14 or 9/16. So let's see it. Which, let me see something here. We'll get right. Let's see. Mighty loose. Let me try something there. Which, yeah, it's 15, all right. Took them out, you think I'd remember, but this thing was out for a while. I'm using an impact swivel, by the way, and I'll go around and I'll recheck all the bolts once I get them all in. I'll make sure I got everything good and snug, but I think that's a high torque little joker, so those are pretty tight. So that's our torque converter installation. Torque converter bolts installed. Then I'll put the little plate up. The starter will go in. We can start hooking up some wire. I'll do all the. I'll even put the axles in. I'll do all that. And once I get that done, then I'll jack the cradle back up in there, because it's easy to get to everything with the cradle out of the way. So let's not get that ahead of ourselves. I've even got our line tied up way over here for the power steering return, so that it's out of the way and ready to accept the subframe unit. So anyways, I'll be back shortly. Here, yeah. Yep, close up. All right, the little guard plate thingy majingy we'll stick that up in there. Use this away. I help you. Watch this thing slip from me. There we go. Watching it slip away. I'll use my knee to hold it up there. Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm just going to start that for right now. Next up is the starter. Let me go up in there. Put the starter up in there. Yeah. And then a couple of little doodads. Something like that. I really don't know about using all the impact power, because it's an aluminum housing for that starter. So my little electric thing zips them up, and I feel better putting a hand tightening on it anyway. We'll service this tranny too. We'll pull this pan and put a new filter on it. There are some wires right here. We've got a ground wire as well. It would go up here to one of your study studs. You've got your main hot wire. Goes up here on the... I don't know if I can get up in there or not. You can see what I'm going to do. And there's some studs I'm kind of working on there. I like that word. I've said it a lot today. All right, so we're going to stick it in. Or on, I mean. Yep. And then... there's a little bracket that goes on one of the other, I'm not going to say it, but things that hold the transmission in, bolty bolts. Oh, brass nut. Brass, lucky. Then you've got this little teeny wire right here. What does this little teeny wire be doing all the time, man? Its job is to, when you turn the switch to crank, it actually sends a signal to your to this round solenoid thing here. And this thing will pull the Bendix out with a magnetic field, and then it makes contact at the very back. I don't know if you can see this or not, but at the very back, there's a copper washer that'll come back and make contact, sending power over to your electric motor once the Bendix is all the way pulled out in position, ready to energize that. This little wire right here sends the 12 volts to do that. It's grounded to the chassis. But anyway, a little something, a little extra there. But anyway, we'll cut to the chase. We'll get a little bit more done, and I'll come back here in a second. Alrighty, let's pull this pan off, and we're going to put us a new filter in there and whatnot and all. Yeah. Circle. why they put that sealant on there, but whoop, that's my elbow. Oh. Typically, you don't need to do that. It feels like I'm gonna. There's a bolt somewhere. Feels like I missed a bolt, but I think it's just the sealer's hanging on that good. Okay. Hey. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I just got a question. My God, you are busy.
Yeah.
And all the cars out here.
I know. Let's see. Alrighty. Well, we've got the filter off, and I don't know if you can see this. Well, don't glue it everywhere, but it looks pretty good in the pan. We don't see like puddles of clutch material. That's a good sign. Okay, we'll get the filter up in there. We'll clean this stupid stuff off that they use. That's retarded. Okay. All right. We'll get this old grommet out. There we go. Carefully not to scrape the sealing surface with my pry bar. I don't want to get into that because you'll mess up. Well, it'll cause a vacuum leak. Vacuum leak. Well, kind of, yeah, because, you know, it's supposed to be smooth and everything right there. Let me get the filter regrowing. The new Grommet go on the filter. Right there, we're good to go. Now we'll put the filter up into place, and there's a little tab that's got on this fit. There we go, right there. There we go. We got her in there. It's a her. Yes, sir, it's a her. The gasket that was on it was really gooed up with all that goo. So I had a good used gasket off of another old transmission. I could get that one off of the one I just took out, but it's on the floor, so I just used one I had laying on the. I keep this old stuff. And start putting her back up. It definitely hurt. And so, yeah. The problem I'll run into is somebody's put that sealer in there, and a lot of times when you put all that sealer in there, it packs the holes with sealer, and then you try to tighten down your mounting bolt, and you can push out half your threads. So hopefully there's going to be enough of these that I can, if I have to, I can find some longer bolts, but it takes a lot of time, so hopefully I can use what I got here, except for that one. I think this one here, I'm going to have to do something. One of these two, it's not good. And I like to use, move my speed crank, because it does everything I need it to do, and allows me the opportunity not to over tighten anything. So we'll go around and we'll tighten in a circular circumference just to snug it. Then I'll go across it, go do across from each other, and I'll just usually I just give it a hand crank tight with what I can do with what this leverage point is right there, and that's it's very sufficient. Okay. Well, I found out that there's some of the holes were in worse shape than I thought, and so I've got to put some helicoils up in here, and 7 or 8 of them I'm going to have to do. So I'm going to show you something here. Hard to tell, but that one, where my finger's at, can't get my finger in the shot. There, I got a bunch of them to do. So I've got my drill bit, and I've got my threader, and we'll drill out some of this stuff and put some helicoils in real quick. I guess we weren't really planning on doing that, but we'll do it. We'll knock them out. Yeah. No, I can find possibly some longer bolts that'll work, but I can do this, I think, faster and save the confusion. Bear with me for a second. There you go. Oh, always tighten all three of your holes on your drill. Where am I? There it goes. Yeah, these things here. Yeah, because that helps that really helps the chuck to grab the bit. That's why you see three holes. So go around, but I'm only doing aluminum, but still, as a habit, I'll just go around and make sure I get all three of the holes. I'll turn them, and so I've marked some of the ones already, and I just got to go kind of straight. Okay, there's one, two. Okay, I think I got one more over here. Yeah. Well, that's, I don't know what I'll do about that. We'll try to put a little something in that. I doubt. I'll figure that out. Yeah. I marked it. Okay. I think that was it. Yeah, one more maybe is right there. We'll see. So next up, I'll take the kit will give you. Of course, I'll have to clean all this aluminum off again, but you'll get this little handle right here, and it's got a hole in the end of it, and it'll accept your doo 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 doo. All right. Anyways. It has been accepted. All right, so now I need to get my squirting oil. The trick to this is kind of eyeballing it straight. All right, there we go. I'll do this one and then I'll cut the camera. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me do all this. Which seems to be cutting so good, I don't even think I'll go. I'll be all right with the squirting oil. It's not really hard on this. We'll run this on. It actually goes all the way through the other side. But I don't want to quite go all the way through the other side because I don't want my helicoil going all the way through to the other side. Because then it won't. I don't want to spin it out of there. So we'll stop when we get all the way through. And then we'll take the other end of this little tool right here, and we'll which has got a slot in it, and there's a little notch. See that little tab? Poor camera won't focus, but you'll put it in so that it could grab that little tab, which we have right here now. Did I get it? Sorry about that. So we have our helicoil on the end of this. Then we'll go into the place to where we just got done dropping it. Right here. Okay, all right, now it threads in there. We'll thread it all the way up to where it's flush. And then, which I stopped the drill bit before it went all the way through. So now we've got a hole for a bolt. Now, so we've got a few more to do. And I'll take a little, before I put it all together, Probably won't be this, but I'll take a little bitty teeny weeny something and knock the little piece that goes across. I gotta have it on there. But there's that little piece that goes across. I'll break that off so that it won't be in the way, so my bolt doesn't do anything crazy. So that's heli coiling 101. Now I got 6 or 7 more to go. All right. Excuse me. The stuff in that you got to look up. Remember, look up at the sky. Just do that for me one day. And look at the stuff going on up there. Anyways, whole other YouTube channel altogether. But we're fixing to put in the subframe back up underneath this Taurus. Let me see here if I can flip the, totally not a phone. Yeah, excuse me, my screen's a little dirty. It's greasy. But here's the subframe, and this is sort of a method I've devised over the years. It's real precise and uses special tools that you have to go to a tool truck and get and spend $1,000 on that. That's a $1,500 4x4. That's custom length cut. Yep, and I used a $7,000 Sawzall blade to do that with. I'll show you the Sawzall that I did that with. It's just highly expensive. You just, it's a 35-year-old Milwaukee with the some Harbor Freight stuff. Anyway, so with our super high dollar tool truck using tools, we're going to put this subframe back up in there. And just to give a little bit of a rundown of what's going on, let's see if I can get a visual. I have right here, which is hard to see, there's this little baling wire. Well, it runs down and goes around the bottom of the steering rack. That's something, and I made sure I didn't do it on the boot so I didn't mess the boot up. But it kept that end up in its little position so it didn't tip down. Same thing over there goes for this side here. I used I tied it off to the cylinder for the brakes, but you can't hardly. There's some baling wire. It does the same. It keeps everything up in there so the steering rack's just not hanging in there. And so we'll just have to roll her up underneath there, and we'll start off by lining up our ball joint ends, and we'll see what happens. So let's do this in real time. I'm gonna set this thing down and phone around so we can see everything, and let's see if I can get this into view here. Okay, so here we go. My nose is stopped up. We'll just have to deal with that. But basically, we're just going to ease her up underneath here. It's her. We just got to make sure we line up certain points for like the engine mounts and other things like that. And I've got it balanced on here, so we'll see what happens. And what we'll probably do is, let's see here. Now that this thing needs to go this way, so to keep everything on the jack and make precise moves, we'll use our trusty pry bar just so I can scoop the jack. That's a creeper sound effect. I'm using a digital creeper. I'm just gonna be scooting my jack over. Hopefully this thing doesn't fall off. I want to do this all in one take. I got a coolant line right up here. I've got to be mindful of that. This needs to go over that, but that's not a problem. We'll work with that. But looks like we're kind of close. We can start putting it up in position now, maybe. Oh, another thing too. The little spacers that go on. Right, yeah. Here we go. Daisy. All right, we've got a power steering line. I talk southerny. We got to deal with it. We're gonna get this up and over that. Okay, so what we've got to do is, like I say, we've got to be mindful of some other stuff that needs to be lined up. And so getting the control arm in position over here. Sorry about the light. I'm just gonna wipe this off. We've done this before. Maybe that's a little bit better. Anyway, so I'm lining up something over here. It's hard to see. Right there, line that control arm up. Same thing on this other side. And we gotta go forward with the jack. We're kind of there. Yeah. We'll also be lining up some other stuff. In the hole there, you'll see the steering rack studs sticking down. All right, but all right. Get this lined up here. Scooting my jack over with my pry bar because it makes it a lot easier. Like I say, you're not jerking and pulling on things and things sliding off. You can see we're getting pretty close. I believe we can go up with it. I like to put these on first because that's the lowest hanging point. And matter of fact, once you get one side kind of in, you can thread a bolt in it so if something falls off, it doesn't fall completely off. I'm on the other side over here. There we go. We'll get so just about there then. Now there we go. Let me put this other one. We're not out of the woods yet. Got to get a couple other things lined up here. I left the tie rod ends unhooked because I've got to get the inlet connectors in position. So we'll move that out of the way. We'll swing this up, and eventually it'll be in position to go into the strut. So we're getting there. I guess I'm just trying to get the best angle. Okay. I don't know if we're upside down or not, but it doesn't matter. So, I'll start looking for this one stud to come through. Right there. That's the one. Keeping a mindful of how everything is lining up, as well as there's a lot of things you're going to put in at the same time. I've got to double check the. See, I've got some studs back here. Whoa. For the steering rack. Yeah, if I can get in there, I've got to line those up. So let's do that. See if I can get those in the shot. Right here, we want those to be lined up so that I can. And there's another engine mount over here on the very back. There we go, got that one in. That's looking good. Soon we should start seeing the come through. My nose is stopped up, so forgive me for that. I keep helping. It's just, yeah, we're looking really good, guys. We can put a bolt or two in the position of the position. There's one. Those are the rack bolts. Nuts, rack nuts. See how things are looking on the other side here. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do so we can get a little bit of a... If you could see me roll around this creeper, you'd be like, what? Oh, we're getting there, looking real good. Yeah. What we'll do is bring the back of the engine up a little bit. Up here on our, because I had to drop it down. You remember when I was getting the transmission lined up, I pulled it up some, but I wasn't sure how far up it had to go, so we're going to pull that up a little bit. That'll help us a lot. Okay. Look at that. Look, you want to leave that back. You want to get going. Get the motor mount bolt in. We'll get one steering rack bolt in. That's good. Now we've got a couple of them. Let's see if we can get. We're gonna get us a line up on this quarter up here. So I'll get my long, skinny line up punchy tool, baby. Am I in the shot over? Yeah, we're in the shot. We're just hanging out, guys. We're getting there. We got us one bolt in there. I'm not going to zip it with the wrench yet. I want to do it with my, make sure I lined up good. I don't want to strip or cross thread anything. So this is looking really good. On the rack lining up. I pulled the rack up like with my baling wire. So, front bolt. There it is. That's the one for the back. This is the one for the front. Just about there. Alright, so I have to say we're pretty well lined up. Oh wow, the motor's almost even lined up back up here. There we go. Put these in. we're gonna get the front one in yet. Oh wow, looking good. Oh yeah, we in there like swimwear. For now, we're just gonna zip it up with this, then we'll put a big breaker bar on it and recheck everything. See how we're doing on our power steering line, looking real good. We had that thing just in the right spot. Yeah. Well, high dollar 4x4. Remember, tool truck stuff, guys. All right, that's a lot of fun. All right, let's go for a ride in this whole thing. I ended up fixing the skip. I didn't do a video on that because I was like, you've probably seen enough of this Taurus. But we can go for a ride in it though. So far, there's no leaks. Run it in the stall here and let's flip the camera around. Not a phone. Okay. Well, so far we're looking good. Phone camera doesn't want to focus, but whatever. Alrighty. Sometimes you can, when you get these transmissions, they may have been sitting on the shelf for a little bit, so you'll have a valve that will stick every once in a while and cut a little bit of a fuse. As I was backing up, a customer was walking in. I had to stop for a second. Let's go. Let's ride this thing. All right. Come on, second gear. All right. Yeah. There's third. Looking for some overdrive action. And then we should get yeah, okay, we're already warmed up, already went to lockup. We're good to go. It's hard to see my tachometer. Let's see, yep, we're going to lockup. Good, you see that? Watch, I'll let off. And we'll come out of lockup for a second. And we drop back down, okay. It's hard to see, but you can see when I let off the throttle and come back into it, it's doing exactly like it's supposed to. You come out of lockup there, and then after that engine vacuum level off, you go back into lockup mode. No shudder. Good, good, good. Yes. So far, so good. And the neat thing about that's my seatbelt light. It doesn't do that when we're low oil pressure though, just the light comes on. Nobody tells you anything. It's not a game show, it's a car. I quote Tim Allen from the Tool Time show anyways. That was when Jill ran the Nomad out of oil. Anyhow, yeah, the transmissions, like when you get used transmissions, a lot of times you'll know pretty quick whether or not it's gonna be any good. This one works really well. It showed on the transmission where it was wrote down 79,000 something miles, so we're saying 80,000 miles on it. And I'd have to say from the judging of it, it sounds pretty accurate. Yes, first and second's real nice. Before this thing would shift into second, and you would lose, you could go, but you couldn't get on the throttle any because it would want to start to, the engine RPMs would rev up and the vehicle speed wouldn't go accordingly. You know, almost like you're half on the clutch. What it is there was a seal, possibly, more than likely a seal was bad, that puts pressure on the piston inside that one section of clutch packs, because you have multiple of those in an automatic transmission. And that seal, that umbrella seal can tear, go bad. you can have clutch failure, but like I say, I pulled the pan on this transmission I took out, and I didn't really see all the material in the pan, which means that, you know, he was babying this thing when it was doing it. It started doing it. He didn't just stay on the gas, and because if you have clutch pack failure, you'll have the same thing, but you'll have all this material in there. Clutch pack failure usually is related to a seal, for the most part, or low fluid. Something happens when you lose pressure on that set of clutch packs for whatever it is. But anyways, a super successful transmission swap, and we'd just like to thank you for tuning in to Will Fix It team. And guys, thank you. Just thank you. I can't say it enough. And y'all have a good one. I'm out.